In Idaho, our approach has been guided by clear pillars, celebrating our nation's founding, honoring the ideals of the Revolution, and recognizing Idaho's place in the evolution of our country. First, the Declaration of Independence. With support from the Foundation for Idaho History and Igor and Merrill, the Idaho State Historical Society has prepared an archival, quality, framed reproduction of the Declaration of Independence, one of the most influential documents in human history. This framed piece, along with artifact fact sheets from the Idaho State Historical Society, are at your desk. When the Declaration was adopted in 1776, it declared a radical idea that legitimate government is grounded in the consent of the governed and that people possess inherent rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That was a moment from the Idaho legislature from earlier this year. It seems appropriate as Idaho is considered the most independent state in the country. According to WalletHub, Idaho is followed as the most independent by Utah and Hawaii. The least independent states, according to the Consumer Finance website, are Kentucky, Louisiana, and Mississippi. What places these states where they are on the independent index may surprise you. And welcome back to the states. We've been focused today on the United States founding principles. One of those that can't be ignored is that of self-governance and independence. Now, researchers with WalletHub, they acknowledge that celebrations rally around not only freedom from British rule, but the ability to be self-reliant, even as individuals. But some across the country are more independent than others, and some of the states as well are also more independent than others. Now, weighing 39 different metrics across social and financial dimensions, researchers with WalletHub, they rank the 50 states based on financial dependency, government dependency, job market dependency, international trade dependency, and vice dependency. WalletHub says their source data comes from government bureaus, nonprofit organizations that track economic and social issues, and even adult entertainment websites. So, what are the top states? The top 5: Idaho, Utah, Hawaii, Colorado, and South Dakota. Now, Nebraska, Massachusetts, Wisconsin, Washington, and Virginia wrap up the top 10. Now, WalletHub's Chip Lupo, he said that their researchers' analysis shows that residents in these states display their independence in a variety of ways, from not being heavily reliant on revenue generated through exports to other countries to not being addicted to smoking, gambling, or drugs. Now, with all that data combined, the least independent states, those who are dependent states, those include South Carolina, Alaska, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Kentucky. And rounding out the bottom 10, you've got Michigan, New Mexico, Alabama, Indiana, and West Virginia. Now, there are a few themes that WalletHub breaks out from the data. What about those state governments? How independent are they? The least dependent state was New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Delaware. The most dependent states, Alaska, Kentucky, and West Virginia. Now, how independent are the residents? Do they need taxpayer-subsidized assistance, like food stamps? WalletHub found the percentage of households receiving public assistance and food stamps was the lowest in Wyoming, Utah, and Kansas. Now, the highest rate of reliance on subsidies is Oregon, New York, and New Mexico. A fascinating one to me was how independent a state is from other countries, especially with the whole idea of declaring independence from foreign rulers being foundational to this country's founding. For a percentage of jobs that were supported by exported goods, the lowest rate was Hawaii, followed by Oklahoma and Colorado. Those who tied for most supported by exported goods were Texas, Alaska, North Dakota, and Louisiana. Now, for the percentage of states' gross domestic product generated by exports to other countries, Hawaii had the lowest, followed by Colorado and Virginia. Tied for having the highest amount of percentage of GDP relying on exports to other countries, Louisiana and Kentucky. Texas was just one notch up. And while they looked at states' independence, what about the individuals? Well, the highest credit scores were in Minnesota, New Hampshire, Vermont, Wisconsin, and Washington. The lowest credit scores were in Georgia, Oklahoma, Texas, Alabama, and Louisiana. Mississippi landed at number 50. Another metric is the percentage of households with rainy day and emergency funds. Again, another signifier of fiscal independence. Hawaii had the highest rate of households with rainy day funds, followed by Minnesota, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Now, the lowest rates were in Kentucky, New Mexico, Wyoming, Mississippi, and West Virginia. Vice was also included in WalletHub's review. The lowest percentage of adult users of drugs was Texas, followed by Utah and Alabama. Again, the lowest rate of drug users. But on the other side of that spectrum, Montana, Vermont, and Maine had the highest percent of adult drug users. The states with the lowest rate of adults with gambling disorders was Michigan, Kentucky, and Connecticut. States with the highest percentage of gambling disorders were Mississippi. Minnesota, New Jersey, and Kansas were tied for third highest, and Nevada ranked number 46. What about binge drinking? Some of that might be going on this holiday weekend. Pennsylvania had the lowest rate of binge drinkers, followed by Utah, New Jersey, and North Carolina. The highest rate of adults binge drinking was in Montana, followed by Alaska and Vermont. So back to the top states: Idaho, Utah, and Hawaii. Now, WalletHub said Idaho at number 1 is on top for its economic situation, for not having to rely on exports to foreign countries while having a low percentage of jobs supported by exported goods. They also have a very low portion of their GDP going to other countries. They show strong financial stability and is among the lowest states with rates of millennials living with their parents. Another sign of independence. They also have a higher rate of access to employer-based retirement plans. Utah was at number 2. They got high marks for having among the lowest rates of people receiving taxpayer-funded benefits. WalletHub says Utah also is one of the states with the least dependent on federal funding. Utah has a low unemployment rate and the highest median income in the country, with the second lowest share of people in poverty. And people aren't dependent on substances. Utah has one of the lowest rates of people who smoke or binge drink. Now, Hawaii ranks number 3. Might be surprising to some of you for its residents having low rates of common addictions, including something WalletHub noted was a low rate of usage of online social networks. Hawaiians are also financially independent, with an unemployment rate of 2.2% and among the lowest number of bankruptcy filings and low rates of poverty. So this Independence Day, while you're hanging with friends around the barbecue or preparing to blast off those fireworks, maybe contemplate just how self-sufficient and how independent you are.